Welcome guys again in this new video. This video, as you see, is entitled Bloom's Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. In this video we'll see a general idea about this learning or educational model. We start with, as the title suggests, or the title structure is comprised of, you see, the first thing we'll see is a short biography of Bloom, who is Bloom, and then later on we'll see what is taxonomy, and then we'll try to know what are the learning domains that this learning model has developed. Let's start. Let's start with the first thing of what I mentioned before, short biography of Bloom, which his full name, Benjamin Samuel Bloom. He was born in February 1913 and he passed away in September 1999. Actually, he was a Jewish American educational psychologist. He had contributed in the development of these works, which are classification of educational objectives and theory of mastery learning. Let's go to another point, which is what is taxonomy? Taxonomy actually comes from the Greek word taxis, it's combined of two words, which is taxis, which means arrangements, and nomos, which means science. The whole words, or the whole word, means science of arrangements. That means a set of classification principles or structure. And later on, we'll see with this word, this concept, notion, domain. In later videos, we'll see what is the difference between notion and concept. Domain simply means category. Let's move on. Let's have a background of this taxonomy, or the history of this taxonomy. Actually, the original work was in 1956, which was developed by Bloom, and later on modified by or revised. This taxonomy had been revised in 2001 by Lauren Anderson, which is a famous student of Bloom. Actually, in 1956, Benjamin Bloom, a professor at the University of Chicago, shared his famous taxonomy of educational objectives. Actually, in 1956, Benjamin Bloom had been collaborated or developed in collaboration with Max Engelhardt Edward First and Walter Hill and David Krathwohl to develop this model, as you see, which is entitled Bloom's Taxonomy. Let's move on. Let's see other points. Actually, Bloom's taxonomy is a classification system used to define and distinguish different levels of human cognition. That is, thinking, learning, and understanding. It had been developed for classroom use as a planning tool, and then continues to be one of the most Therefore, it continues to be one of the most universally applied models in classroom context. Actually, this model is a significant framework in learning and learning domain, actually. Let's move on. What is the purpose behind the development of this taxonomy or this model? Actually, the purpose of this model to help educators to inform or guide development of assessments. That means tests and other evaluations of student learning. And curriculum, we have units, lessons, projects, and other learning activities, and instructional methods such as questioning strategies. It is important, actually, this model in order to inform or guide the teacher to find the tools of assessment or to develop the tools of assessments or the types of assessments. Other point, to make sure the instruction stimulates and develops students' higher order thinking skills. This is the bright idea here, the key idea. To develop students' higher order thinking skills, or actually critical thinking. Especially critical thinking. Bear in mind this and underline these keywords. Let's go on in the same idea here about the aim behind the creation of this taxonomy in order to promote higher forms of thinking in education rather than just remembering facts or learning by heart, which is rote learning. It promotes your thinking, to think rather than to remember. Actually, this taxonomy was created to categorize a continuum of educational objectives, which would also allow us to select appropriate classroom assessment techniques for any course. Actually, I talked about this before. To select appropriate classroom, this is to select appropriate classroom assessment techniques or tools. Go back to my videos to see what does it mean, a technique and the method. What are the differences between these two? Let's go to the learning domains that these or this model has talked about. Actually, we have two learning domains that this Bloom's taxonomy talked about. We have the first one, the cognitive domain. The second domain, we have the affective domain. In the third domain, we have the psychomotor domain. In other videos, we'll see each one, or we'll see the details of each one. Let's move on to see. We have the cognitive objectives, or the cognitive domain, was developed by Benjamin Bloom in 1956. The second domain, which is the affective, was developed by Krath, Wall, and Bloom in Maria in 1964. The third domain, which is the psychomotor objectives, was developed by Simpson 1966 and Harrow 1972. Let's give you hints about, or just ideas, few ideas about these domains. The cognitive domain is about what we think. Actually, the cognitive domain is about what we think, and the affective domain is about we feel. It's related to the heart, the feelings, emotions. The cognitive domain is about reasoning, and logic, and mind, and thinking, and cognition. The third domain is the psychomotor domain. Is about what we do, our actions, our acts, our movements, physical movements. Let's go back to the subclassifications of these domains. The first one is the cognitive domain. We have knowledge, we have comprehension, we have application, we have analysis, we have synthesis, we have evaluation. The second domain, which is the affective domain, we have receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and characterization. The third domain, we have psychomotor domain, we have perception, set, guided response, mechanism, complex overt response. In next videos, we see each classification will give time to its classification and give details, deep details about these issues. Be patient. Okay? I think this is the last thing that is included in this video. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry for watching this video, and see you in next videos, inshallah. Thank you. And if you want, and these are the references that I have consulted through all the videos that I present before you, or that I have presented and I will present later on.